Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. Dr. Seuss. Welcome to Life in Perspective. I'm Joseph Yeager, and this is another Perspective on Life. I've come across an interesting phenomenon recently which greatly concerned me. When I searched Google for the topic of speaking my mind, I found that the leading searches date back to 2020 and before. Maybe I'm inept at Google searches, but if I am experiencing that, maybe some of you are as well. Regardless, I want to share my thoughts on the matter openly and honestly, in keeping with the tradition of we will not be silenced. Can social media giants silence me? Of course. Will they? Perhaps. That will not stop me, because if I let it, I'm just as culpable. Fortunately, in recent weeks, we are beginning to see a whole lot more of a shift, as people are choosing to speak up rather than forever hold their peace, as they are getting fed up with the continuous enforcement of dictatorial and manipulative actions of governments across the world. Maybe that will eventually update the Google search engine to show more current results that reflect the real sentiment of the people. Before I continue, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so by clicking the subscribe link below. You may also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Growing up, we all experience the generation gap habits, interests, and aspirations that create conflict and disagreement. That's part of progress, innovation, and advancement. Until now, however, I have not experienced such a blatant attempt to go from building on history to rewriting it. What's worse, certain state governments are allowing it to happen with the support of the current ruling party. It's been in the works for decades, and the events of 2020 was the perfect opportunity to squeeze as hard as possible, while so many are gripped with fear and worry, so much so that they will be willing to do whatever it takes to stop the pain. Everything, including the kitchen sink, the baby with the bathwater, and the apparent might of mainstream and social media, was thrown at us so as not to let this crisis go to waste. And for a while, it seemed like it was working. Political groups such as the squad of immature and spoiled ingrates, which unfortunately, in my opinion, lack the intelligence to govern themselves, let alone a country, somehow managed to attract a substantial amount of followers on social media. It's highly concerning for me to see how high the level of ignorance and naivete has become in so many that they get drawn in by the allure of such progressive representation. If socialism is the goal, there is nothing progressive about it, because as history proves time and time again, it doesn't work. Every nation that has tried it failed socially and economically and ended in a counter-revolution. Lies and empty promises only go so far, and no matter how wealthy and powerful the so-called elite become, at some point the sheer number of the mob is just too much to handle. People will only be silenced and oppressed for so long before they tear down that wall. If Russia, China, East Germany, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, South Africa, and every nation choosing this path isn't enough to convince you, and you think that somehow it will be different this time, then you are as naive and delusional as the bubblegum representatives you follow and support. Even modern-day nations like Australia and Canada, that before COVID were not only great tourist destinations but an alternative residency consideration for many, have subjected its citizens to tyrannical and totalitarian policies in the name of public safety. And now we are seeing it here. Parents being called domestic terrorists for protesting at school board meetings. Governors refusing to accept Supreme Court rulings against their unconstitutional vaccine mandates, while governors that refuse to comply with unconstitutional mandates are being refused superior alternative treatment for their citizens. And with over 60% of the workforce not paying federal income tax in 2020, you would think people would be dying to go back to work. But no. They make a lot more staying at home and too selfish to consider the consequences it will have on future generations. It is the rest of us that are paying for that. People are being silenced and censored for merely raising concerns over policies, yet their questions go unanswered because it will confuse them, not to mention offend the overly sensitive nature of the cancel and woke culture weaklings for whom the rest of us walk on eggshells for. These are but a few grains of sand on a vast beach of challenges we face. But if you can't see where this is going, you better get your head out of the sand and start looking. Nazi Germany, Russia, Cuba, North Korea, etc. all started this way, painting a picture of bliss in which we all live as one big happy family of comrades with Mother Government taking care of all our needs and protecting us. And we all know how these so-called fairy tales ended. Again, if you think it will somehow end differently this time and with the squad at the helm no less, you are delusional at best. If you're watching this and have the audacity to tell me that I am fear-mongering and dramatizing, I suggest you wake up and take a peek at what's going on outside your pretty little bubble and pay attention. I'm not suggesting not to be positive, hopeful, and making the best of every day. I'm urging you to not only be aware of what is going on, but to realize that if you stay silent, keep rationalizing the abuse of power, and accept what's being shoved down your throat as for the greater good, then don't be surprised when your bubble bursts and what you once thought was a fictional drama has become a real-life documentary. When Ben Franklin left the Constitutional Convention in 1787, a citizen asked, "What have we got, a republic or a monarchy?" To which Ben Franklin replied, "A republic, if you can keep it. If we can keep it. It is in our hands alone to make sure that we follow the example of those who peacefully yet relentlessly protest against senseless mandates and proposals to do nothing more than intend to impose control over the people by buying their will with more stimulus checks, unemployment benefits, and dependence on government paid for by those who have the pride and dignity to pave their own way and actually do pay their fair share. It is up to us to speak up and demand of those who swore to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the inalienable rights it guarantees that they start living up to their oath. They are there to serve the people, not the other way around. Their powers are bestowed by the people, not the other way around, and that their powers are a privilege, not a right. We shouldn't have to remind them, but unfortunately, it is necessary. So speak boldly and with intellect. Never hush your voice for someone's comfort. Speak your mind and make people uncomfortable. I just did. Will you? Please like, subscribe, and share this video, and let me know what topics you would like my perspective on in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.